Hi, hi everyone. You can see the chat functions there. If anyone wants to communicate using the chat function, it's available just to say hello to everyone and talk. Obviously, keep your microphones on mute if you're not actually speaking. You can turn your videos on and off depending on how you feel. Sometimes the connections can be quite slow if there's too many people using video at the same time, but you know, if it seems to be okay now, so we can do that. I'm just here to say a few words before handing over to Neven, our chief. Just to firstly thank everyone for their flexibility for this conference. As you know, we had the on-campus planned conference only to very recently. We had a very nice social plan for the conference that unfortunately didn't go ahead for anyone, including ourselves here on the Gold Coast. So we're also isolating at home as well. But saying that, the SDEWES management team very quickly put together what I think to be a very good virtual platform. So, you know, firstly, I'd like to thank Marco for doing that, putting together in the space of literally a 2-week period or less. He put together an excellent platform where people could upload their PowerPoint presentations, could you know, ask questions and respond to questions and get alerts to their email, you know, and that was, you know, put together very, very quickly. So I'm quite pleased in how that worked, and the comments that have come through from the International Scientific Committee have indicated that, you know, while there's pros and cons to a virtual conference of any kind, you know, there are some very good positives out of this whole process that can be taken forward for conferences in the future, including some, you know, land-based conferences that potentially also include some of these virtual platforms within the mix as well. So, you know, as we know with our various universities throughout the world, where and workplaces in industry, where we're learning a lot through this process, and some of those things will be taking forward when things get back to normal. So in the circumstances, I'm very pleased with the conference and how it turned out. For the first conference, I think it's going to be one conference that you'll remember for all of time because of the circumstances for which it occurred. We also have a second conference next year. So the second SDEWES conference, Asia Pacific, will happen next year in April. We had some people transfer to that conference their registration. Obviously, people attending this conference have a credit that they can use at other SDEWES conferences. But, you know, we still want to proceed, you know, with a conference, even if it's a smaller, even more domestic conference, if international travel is still quite restricted. But I think it would be quite good to, you know, still build the, I guess, the SDEWES brand here in the Asia Pacific region, and show this as a very good conference for, you know, energy, sustainability, environment and water type researchers as sort of a premier conference. And I think we can and have done that in the circumstances, and you know, I'm very, very happy with that, because as you know, while we didn't have a conference that was land-based, we did a lot of work towards a conference in terms of setting up a website, setting up special sessions, and you know, so a lot of work went into play from special session organizers that didn't go ahead for whatever reason, volunteers who turned up. Thomas Love came to Australia for a visit only weeks before the actual sort of cancelling of the on-campus conference to arrange some fine-tuning and meet the volunteers and things, and obviously lots of bookings that had to be booked and cancelled. So, you know, in the circumstances, we did really well, and it really shows seeing what happened, you know, with the virtual platform and people really engaging with that, you know, asking questions and people responding in a very timely manner. I was very impressed with some aspects of that, and I would say, you know, in some ways that questioning, that question answer aspect, you know, there's some aspects of that is, you know, in some ways, you know, can be better than the sort of the typical platform where you've got a very short period of time to answer a question that's provided. So this could be something to take into future conferences, even when you talk face to face, that you can still have an online platform for questions, and authors are required to answer those questions as part of the entire review process and eligibility for papers to go to special sessions. So I'll probably, before handing over to Neven, I'd just like to thank, you know, being the local organising chair, I'd just probably like to thank the people that have worked with me here on the Gold Coast, including my co-chairs, and local organisers such as Dr. Oz Sahin. You know, we had Associate Professor Cheryl Desher, we had Dr. Cara Beale, we had Simone Helgist, who helped out a lot, as well as about 10 PhD volunteers. So I was really impressed, you know, by the help that we got from the various people, even though that didn't really translate into the on-ground types of activities they would have been done. But you know, there's next year, and hopefully 2021. You know, things can hopefully get back to some form of normality, whatever that happens to be. And you know, I get to see you face to face again, and hopefully enjoy a true glass of champagne, or a beer, or some nice red wine and a dinner together, and enjoy those aspects in future conferences. So I look forward to doing that in a future conference, but at the same time, I've enjoyed some of the learnings out of this conference, and not just this conference, but my entire shifting work environment in terms of online teaching and project meetings and everything else. It's been a challenge, but it's something that I'll take many things away from. So I'm just going to finish up there with that very short introduction, and hand it over to Neven, if he's online. I saw him before in the photos, and let him say a few words.
Now the slides are moving. Okay. I would like to thank very much our sponsors, especially City of Gold Coast. And I would like to thank all the participants. In the end, we had 120 participants from 35 countries and 6 continents. 98 papers were in the end presented in the online fashion in 14 regular and 2 special sessions. One presentation was not presented, so that one has been withdrawn. And there is one presentation for which there are not replies from authors. I would like to remind the authors they need to reply to the questions. They will still have 24 hours to do replies, but in order to get a certificate and that the presentation is considered regular, they have to answer the questions. As Rodney said, this ended up as a relatively good format. The generated discussion was excellent, really much better than usually on live real-time conferences. So 1,200 comments which were received by these 98 papers, it's really impressive interest from participants. We had around a little bit less than 500 first level questions, and the others were answers and replies from 104 participants. So most of the participants were very, very active in the process, and we are very happy about that. That means that the conference was really successful on the scientific level. Unfortunately, the social part, which is something what is famous about SDEWES conferences, didn't work this time, but then we will have it, I'm sure, at the second Asia-Pacific conference next year, coronavirus permitting, of course. But I hope by that time we will have a vaccine and everything will be solved, and we will have really nice time again in Gold Coast. Something what is in interest of authors is publishing. All of those who have submitted us archival papers, we will try to invite to journals. We can't promise, of course, all, but we usually manage to invite like 95 to 98% of archival papers, depending on the scope. Also, we might invite some conference papers if we are going to miss a certain scope of papers for certain journals. Up to now, we have published nearly 1,800 papers in different journals. And you can see here the list of partner journals which used to publish with us. We will see about this year. We don't have yet agreement with all of them. We have started negotiating with some of them, but we will see how it works. Basically, since we are organizing 4 conferences this year, that means we will start inviting papers only in September after the Cologne conference, because special issues cannot be open for too long. But in case that you are in a real hurry to publish, SDEWES journal, which is Scopus journal, is already open for publishing, but in that case you have to send me an email asking to be invited to SDEWES, of course, if the scope is correct. SDEWES is a journal of SDEWES Center, which we started in 2013. It has 1.4 side score in Scopus, and it's Q2 in some fields, Q3 in some other fields. So you're also allowed to welcome to send your papers independently, but then the fee applies. If you send it through conference invitation, then publishing has its fee waived. It has been also indexed by the Emerging Sources Citation Index since 2016. And we are hoping to get impact factor in coming years. I would like to thank now, this is all the local organizing committee team, of course, Rodney, who did excellent job in organizing the conference and having everything negotiated with university, and the local governments, etc. Oz, who helped us with the organizational part, he was a chair of programming committee, and then Zvonimir, conference secretary, Kara, Cheryl, Tomislav, Marco, Esther, Emilia, Nevena, Eva, Simone, Jaden, Mohammed, Glauber, Ofeli, Sohail, and Hengi. I would like really to thank you all. We can't clap because that would be too many microphones turned on, but you did A great job, and thank you all, and hope to see you in a year time. Well, few words about what is coming during the rest of the year. We are going to have fourth Southeast European SDEWES conference in Sarajevo. We are still hoping that the virus will be quelled by that time, but the chances are falling day by day. So we will for sure have a hybrid version. But if it will be impossible to travel, then we will have a full online version of the conference. And then in September, we're going to have 15th SDEWES conference in Cologne. Again, we didn't decide yet. We are hoping that by that time, virus will be under control and we will be able to travel again. But if not, we have a solution that works very well. Then the next year, we already agreed that there will be a second Asia-Pacific conference with the same team. So you're most welcome to come back, this time to really try the waves also, not only to do the scientific part of the work, because the climate was excellent. It was 30 degrees during the conference time, so it would be really very nice to do some splashing on marvelous beaches of Gold Coast. So please come back. And then there will be in October 16th SDEWES conference in Dubrovnik, which is our main conference, which happens every 2 years. And which draws quite a big number of people. Last conference had 650 people in person. So then we are also planning for 22 third Latin American conference, 5th Southeast European conference, and then probably third Asia Pacific conference, unless we move to doing it always in odd years, and of course 17 SDEWES conference. So I would like to thank you all for this excellent participation, and I would like to say that conference is still open for questions until the midnight Hawaii Standard Time, which is midday Central European Time, which means 1.5 hours more. And for answers, the conference will be open additional 24 hours. So 25.5 hours more. We ask our authors to answer all the questions, because questions should not go unanswered. We hope that you had really good scientific exchange. It seems that the platform worked quite well. It was stable, and we still didn't decide, but we think we will keep this conference online for the future use of the participants. So the presentations will stay available as well as discussion. We didn't discuss yet, shall we allow for a prolongation of discussion, but I think it's better to keep it as it is, a very concentrated event. And if you want to continue talking with authors, you have their papers, and please communicate directly with them. Thank you very much. Marco, did you manage to take a photo? Okay, that's all from me. Thank you all very much, and I return the floor back to Rodney. Rodney, floor is yours.
Thank you, Neven. I don't really have too much more to say to everyone, but just really thanking the SDEWES management team, Nevena, Eva, Marco, and of course Neven, for doing a fantastic job during quite stressful times. And I know even Croatia had an earthquake that occurred recently before the conference, and I heard on the grapevine that Marco was called up to do civil service for the government for a day as well. So, you know, these are challenging times on many fronts, but it really makes you proud when you see how people respond to those challenges and adapt and be resilient. So I think we've done that, and can all pat each other on the back. And we've also managed to put together a pretty good scientific conference that will lead to a number of good publications in some top journals later this year. So that's what we're here to do. We're in the business of you know, being researchers and practitioners, and we need to continue doing that no matter the circumstances, and we've managed to do that. So, you know, I'm just very happy with that outcome. So, you know, that's really all I have to say, Neven. Just to thank everyone, and particularly like to thank all the participants from all over the world. I know that from your various different countries facing all different problems, you've also got different news. You've had plans that may have been cancelled, you know, bookings, and you know, there's a lot of stresses with that. And most people have been really understanding with this whole process. So most people involved with the conference, when they've emailed us about the changes and things, have been very understanding, and that, you know, that's great to have that as an organizing committee when you're facing lots of challenges, to have participants that are also understanding that the normal processes that you would have couldn't sort of stack up this time. But all I'll say is I hope you can come to Australia next year at the conference. If not next year at the conference, more than welcome to just come and visit and join us on the Gold Coast. You know, I can give you a letter and make you a visiting researcher if you want, and you can come and visit, and we can have coffee, and you can take a look around as well. So I look forward to seeing you in the future on the Gold Coast. Thank you. Bye, everyone.